So next up, we've got Jonathan Leafe from Leafe Consultancy. So please give it a big hand for Jonathan.
Thanks very much, everybody. I am definitely the oldest person in the room by some margin, looking at all your faces. Can I just show of hands who's agency side, please, just so I know who I'm talking to. Put them and clients. Can you put them right out? I haven't got my glasses on. That's more like it. And just client side. Crikey, it's basically just agencies in here. That terrifies me. I wish I'd known that. So just to introduce myself before we get into the presentation. Well, my name is Jonathan Leafe, as it says on the slide clearly. I've actually been in agencies since 1986, when I worked for one of the largest agencies actually outside London, and that was in Hull. We employed, there was about 120 in the team then. And in fact, we're the sixth largest agency outside London, because we had one major client called Comet, and they used to spend £15 million with us every year, and that was back in the 1980s. So you can imagine what that would have been nowadays. But that gave me a great grounding because it was pre-digital. So we had creatives, we had art workers, we had copywriters, we had paste-up people, we had proofers, we had typesetters, we had every single possible skill that you could possibly imagine. And of course now that skill can be done by one person. So in marketing, everything's changed, but nothing's changed. And actually I went to Spain and worked in Spain for 3 years before I came back and set my own agency up, which was in 1989. And that was a business called Strawberry, which we've got had our HQ over there in C4DI on the top floor there. And I ran that business for about 27 years, I think, before I sold it to a management buy-in about 4 years ago. And the last 4 years, I've just been mentoring and performance coaching other agencies around the country, from as far up north as Aberdeen, London, and Dublin. And it's the best job I've ever had. All the clients are really grateful, which is fantastic, as any agency would know. And I'm still delighted to be working in Hull with an agency called Blab, with Courtney and Jess, who are here, who both used to work with me at Strawberry. So it's fantastic to see everybody here. So I didn't really know what to present here, because all you people know what you're talking about, and you know what you're doing, and there's been two very, very good keynote presentations already. And I guess the good news is actually what I'm going to talk about now is actually building on those two things, because I am a firm believer, and I think you were mentioning it really, absolutely got it right, is that client retention is much, much better than acquisition. And you can only do that if your company has that level of honesty and that empathy with their clients, and constantly outperforming everybody else of their competitors. And that's generally through honesty, innovation, better products, better service, whatever. And actually, it happens for agencies as well. I mean, so there's two parts to this. For your clients that you're talking to, if you can get them thinking farming is better than hunting, you're very well on the way to actually having a very successful relationship with them. Because the most important part of this, just let me get the clicker right. Working. Can I use an arrow? There you go. To actually find a new customer, on average, costs 7 times more than just keeping the one you've got. So if you think about it, all the stuff that we do, I mean, yeah, it's great we have to do that because we're performance marketers, but it costs a lot of money to spend to actually acquire a customer. In fact, 7 times more. You think of all the things that you've got to do to get that customer. So you've got to write some content. You've got to post that content, you've got to put an advert out there, you've got to put a poster out there, you've got to put a digital ad out there, you've got to do PPC, you've got to do social ads, you've got to do some PR. All of these different things that you have to do to get that one customer, that one new customer, into your business, whether you're an agency owner or whether you're working on behalf of clients. It is very expensive and very time consuming. And of course you have to do it because the businesses have to keep renewing their clients. But the most important thing, if you've spent all this money, then it seems pretty daft to have the front door wide open into your agency or your customer's business and people walking in because you spend a lot of money to get them there, and you've left the back door open and they're just walking straight out because you can't keep them, because you're a terrible farmer. So the simple analogy there is just be a better farmer than a hunter, because it actually gets worse than this. And the good news, this presentation is quite short because we've got beer and pizza to eat, so that's how I'll keep it short. So to get a new client, 7 touch points are needed. They could, as I explained before, they can be all sorts of different things, and they could be 14 points of contact. But if you think what your behaviour is like yourself when you actually look at buying something, or just or trying to get a new client in, the new client will be asking around, which agency is the best in town, or can I see some of their work? They'll go and stalk you on LinkedIn, they'll look at your Twitter page, they'll look at your Instagram page, they'll maybe look at your Facebook page, they'll maybe even look at your TikTok page if you've got one of those. They'll see some content that you don't know what they're looking at, but they'll be looking at absolutely everything. And that's what we will do as consumers when we are trying to get new clients into our clients' businesses. Because if you think about it, when you're buying something, and I did it, I bought a new guitar last week, but I've been looking at this guitar for probably about 6 months. I've been watching reviews on YouTube. I've been watching reviews from the brand. I've been watching reviews from independent people who are just trialing out the guitars. So we all do it. We are constantly looking at different things to make us that point of purchase. But actually, we have got no idea, really, as marketers, which is the point of attribution we can allocate to that particular sale, because it's never just one thing. It's many different things. In fact, I actually don't know, and this is going back to, I sort of made note of it when I started. When I was first working for an agency back in the 1980s, of course, there's no digital then. We actually couldn't really tell where clients came from, customers came from. So we would sit around in Comet's office, we would be preparing the campaigns, say in January, talking about the concepts, talking about the creative. By February, we might have got some artwork done. By March, we'd book some space in magazines and newspapers, and we would be distributing the adverts, but the adverts wouldn't appear until April, and we wouldn't find out what had happened in the sales till May. So we couldn't, at those times, we were all cool about it. So we would walk in and say, how did the campaign go? Well, we sold some stuff, it was good, but we had no idea actually what had worked. We had no way of tying the two things together. And the problem is today, well, it's a good thing and a bad thing, is that we can measure absolutely everything. And because we can measure absolutely everything we do, and particularly clients do, and they're always trying to find that point and those stats of the acquisition. And I think it was mentioned in the first presentation that this happens so quickly, and clients will be straight on it, and they'll be looking for a stat. They'll be looking for what happens today, and if it's not working today, they'll want to know why by the end of the day. In fact, we had one client who used to ring our PPC guy probably 6 times a day, because he was on watching what was going on and saying, why is the bid? Why is it £2 a click now? Why is it £1.50? Why is it £3? Panic, switch off. And this is what happens because we can measure everything too quickly. So it's almost like you've got to say to your clients, I know you can't do that, but just take a chill pill, because it's not one thing, it's many different things. And the analogy that I will give you is the 7 beer rule. Now, we all go out and have a few beers on Friday, and if it takes you 7 beers to get drunk, which one of those beers got you drunk? Was it the first one? Was it the 7th beer? It was all of them. So everything that you do, marketing on behalf of your client, contributes towards that sale. And you really must reinforce this with your clients all the time to say, look, it's everything that we do makes the difference, but we can't put our finger on which actually is the final attribution. And if you try and put a final attribution on a sale, you're always going to miss the point. It might be possible in certain things if there's an absolute sale and it's direct and there's a specific call to action, but generally you can't put your finger on where that final sale came from. So just remember the 7 beer rule, and if every client starts to criticise that, just use that and ask them which of those beers got them drunk. Was it the 3rd? Was it the 5th? Was it the 1st? Was it the 7th? The answer is it was all of them. So it's everything that we do contributes towards the success of a marketing campaign. keeping a client, and this again, this goes for our brands that we work for and also our agencies. It's so important to actually keep on and constant care and constant contact. If you want to build this brand authority, if you want to build a trust, then you have to constantly be speaking to your audiences. And the fantastic examples of Burger King and KFC that Calvin gave to us were superb examples of that, because they really understand their audience. They're constantly talking to their audience. You might say that Coca-Cola don't need to advertise. You might say that KFC don't need to advertise because they're so big. But they're constantly to reassure all of their clients that they're there, they're doing the right things, they're making the right noises, they're enhancing their brand all the time. Coca-Cola really don't need to spend gazillions on their Christmas advertising, but they do every year. They spend a lot of money on television and press ads and across the digital space as well, just to remind everybody that Coca-Cola owns Christmas, etc. So it's really important all the time to keep talking to your customers, for your brands, your clients, to keep talking to their customers as well. It's more important, and I would say absolutely 100% more important to do that, because remember the first slide, it costs 7 times more to get that client. And if you're in the marketing agencies that I come across when I start working with them, quite often they're very, very good at new sales, but terrible at retention. It's almost like I akin it to sitting in a bath with the taps full on but the plug out. You know, you've got to make sure that you're constantly reminding all of your customers what a good job you are doing for them. So the final part of this presentation really is going back what I've said already. Just be that good farmer. Be a good hunter as well, because it's important. New business is important. New clients are important for every businesses that we have. But if you're a good farmer, it means that you are actually turning all of your existing customers into active brand ambassadors as well, which actually reinforces what Calvin was saying about the honesty and the truth of the brand, etc. Because actually the interesting thing is, if there is a great big issue with whatever, your customers actually will come to your support. So the KFC one in particular, actually that really works in their advantage, because all of the KFC fans were starting to actively tweet on sharing all these things. Yeah, fantastic KFC, we're really in support, we can't wait until you've got your problems sorted out. So that they turned a massive negative into a huge profit, because they had brand ambassadors that they're superb at farming. And you only have to look about the best businesses in the whole of the world, and they are much, much, much better at farming than they are at hunting. So that's what you need to look like, fellas. Thank you very much.